Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to lecture 21 of data mining. So this is the start of the last 4 weeks of this semester. So today we will be starting a new topic, which is somewhat related to cluster analysis. And this topic is outlier detection. So we will be looking at techniques for detecting outliers or anomalies in data sets. And this has numerous applications in different domains. The whole idea is that from a given data set, we want to find objects that are significantly different from the rest of the object. And depending on the application, depending on the domain, that might be of value. So the usual application that we talk about and think about is fraud detection, for example, in financial transactions. So fraud detection would typically be an outlier among all the various transactions that typically occur over a fixed period of time. So that's the agenda for today. So we'll be discussing outlier analysis. So I hope all of you are doing well. So you need to keep healthy. So Corona is spreading again quite strongly again, and I would ask you to protect yourself and others by following precautions. So if you have any questions, you can ask right now, and then we can get started with the session. So we do have a quiz at the end of the lecture today. Yes, we do have a quiz. We have a quiz at the end of the lecture around 6:05, 6:10. So this would be your quiz 7. So we will still have 2 more quizzes left the next 2 weeks. And as I mentioned before, we will have an N-2 policy. So 2 of your low scoring quizzes would be dropped in the final grade. What is the quiz on? Actually, that is our standard procedure. The quiz would be on the previous 2 lectures since the previous quiz. So we did evaluation and we talked about some other stuff in the last 2 lectures. Cluster evaluation, and we talked about graph-based clustering and so on. So, okay, so outlier analysis. So I think I can probably use my notes. The notes are from the standard textbook notes. I think I did not upload it yet, but I will do it after class. So we are going to study detection or analysis. So the obvious question, first of all, is what exactly is an outlier? So an outlier basically is an object that is significantly different from the rest of the objects. Okay? So that's the standard, I would say, common definition for outliers. And sometimes outliers and anomalies are used interchangeably. So anomalies are also observations that are significantly different from the rest of the observations that you see in your data. Okay. Maybe I think the typing did not show up here. So let me write it again. So outlier detection. And as I said, outliers are also called anomalies. Okay? And these are observations that are significantly different from the rest of the observations in your data set. And there is a notion of a normal data behavior. So normal, you can say distribution to use a term from statistics. So there's a normal data behavior, and an outlier would be a behavior that is significantly different from the normal behavior. Okay? And obviously the question would arise, what is a normal behavior? What is significantly different? So these are the various questions that still, I think, bog outlier detection. But then, of course, you have to use some domain expertise with the various algorithms available to us to find those outliers. So secondly, what is noise? So outlier, we said, is something that is significantly different from the normal. So what is noise? Noise from a behavioral perspective is also something that is significantly or may be significantly different from the rest of the data. But from a conceptual perspective, noise is basically random data points or objects. So these points are generated randomly. They're not generated from the process from which the rest of the data is generated. Since this is generated randomly, it might be present in the normal distribution. It might be present away from the normal distribution. And those that are away from the normal distribution may resemble outliers and anomalies. And if our detection is purely based on behavioral aspects, then we wouldn't be able to distinguish between noise and outliers. Okay? But if we are able to somehow detect noise as coming from a particular source, and we have a way of filtering out that noise, then we should do that before we apply any outlier detection algorithm. Okay? So what are some of the applications of outlier detection? So as I said, fraud in financial transactions. So credit card fraud, for example, let's say I use a credit card and I have a certain buying behavior every month. So if suddenly my buying behavior changes, for example, I have a spike in high cost purchases, and that spike is significantly different from a previous behavior, so then that potentially presents a fraud. Maybe my card has been stolen or my card credentials are known to others who are not authorized to use that. So that is one very common application that you think of. And similarly, in the network domain, you can think of network intrusion. So network intrusion usually is an outlier. So if you look at the traffic that flows over the network, that has some certain behavior. Usually an intrusion would be a behavior that is not authorized, or it is significantly different from what is normal for that particular network. Okay? So that is another application of outlier detection. And then in the business community, we would like to, for example, if you talk about the retail industry, so we would like to find customers of high purchase, you can say purchase capability, you can say. So these customers usually would be outlier among all the customers for your particular business. So for example, there might be a very few customers who buy like high-end things like, I don't know, for example, diamond products or jewelry products or Rolex watches or even high-end iPhones and stuff like that. And obviously, to a retail person, this is something that is interesting, and they would like to identify those people. And so obviously, every domain has its application. Okay. What else? So in the telecom sector also, telecom industry. So you're also interested in, you can say, fraud here as well. Maybe a stolen phone might have certain behaviors in phone calls. So that might represent fraud, for example. And in general, anything that is out of the normal you would like to detect. For example, even might be a legitimate user, but that user has very peculiar calling patterns. For example, he calls, let's say, Palau, for example, is a country that is almost unknown. But we know it because Palau always comes very close to Pakistan in any Dropbox of countries. It's actually next to it. But if I ask any one of you where exactly Palau is, I think no one really knows. So, so things like that. So all of these things are outliers, and we would like to detect them. In some cases, those outliers are nuisances like network intrusion. In other cases, those are things of value to us, like, as I said, finding customers of high purchasing power. Okay? So outlier detection and analysis has been studied quite widely over the years because, as you can see, it has many applications, but there isn't any one way of solving it. And that is because each domain has a different definition of outlier. So we'll just survey a few ideas in this lecture. So first of all, let's categorize the techniques for outlier detection. So from a machine learning perspective, those techniques can be supervised, they can be unsupervised, or they could be both hybrid, or which we sometimes call semi-supervised. So what is supervised? Supervised is a classification framework, meaning that you have labeled data. So the data that is labeled, here we mean that data is labeled for both the normal as well as the abnormal behaviors. Okay? So let's say you have customer transactions for a retail store. For each customer, let's say customer 1, you have a label against it. So this is normal. So customer 2, this is normal. So customer 3, this is an outlier. So customer 5, this is normal, and so on. So such labels are available. Of course, for each customer, you'll have a set of features. So for supervised outlier detection, you need to have such labeled data set available. And then you can apply any classification technique. So technique can be applied. So these techniques can be neural network based, they can be probabilistic based, so they can even be decision trees. So what does this classification technique do? They build a model. Once you have built a model from the data, which is called training, then you can use this model to make predictions. So whenever I give them a new customer, let's say I give them a new customer, let's say 25, with its features, of course, the model will tell me whether this is normal, or an outlier. Okay? After the model has been trained. So the challenge here, of course, is, of course, we won't go into too many classification techniques. You can use any of them. The challenge, of course, here is that labeling of data is difficult, number one. And of course, for many applications, label data is not available. So you have to spend hours labeling it manually. The second challenge is that usually a number of examples of outliers are very few. By definition, outliers do not occur frequently. Are very few. So we run into a problem in classification which is called class imbalance. So for example, normal points could be, let's say, 98%, and outliers would then be just 2%. So your training data set would contain the vast majority of examples as normal, while only 2% would be abnormal. So for classification algorithms to learn effectively from such data set is usually difficult. We will have to do some modifications. So we won't actually go into those techniques. The modification, of course, are either sampling or weighing. These are, of course, the two common techniques. There are others as well. So sampling, of course, can be done to reduce the majority class or to increase the minority class, or a combination of both, so that the two data sets, the two examples are the same. And reweighing is to give a greater weight to the minority class, which is the outlier, so that it is better represented or modeled in the data in the classification technique. Okay. So this is supervised. So then we have unsupervised. So unsupervised technique, no label data is required. So no label data is required, and we allow the algorithm to find regularities and irregularities in the data. And as you can see, this is what we actually do in clustering. So most of the techniques in the unsupervised approach are very similar to the clustering techniques. And these are the ones that we are going to look at in somewhat more detail while discussing outlier analysis. Of course, the challenge here is again the same. The normal behavior and the abnormal behavior may not be correctly captured in these techniques. So you will have to be careful and then of course make sure that you are able to somehow evaluate your results. And then we have the semi-supervised. So in this case, part or small labeled data. So small, of course, you understand only a small quantity of data is available or labeled. And you would like to expand that data set to build a model. So that's one thing. And then what is meant by part? So part means that either normal is labeled or abnormal is labeled, not both. So of course, to use this, again, you will have to modify your approach. Let's say if only normal is labeled, then maybe you can learn a model you can build a model for the normal data and then detect anomalies as anything that is significantly different from the normal. On the flip side, if abnormal is labeled, then you can build a model for the abnormal, and anything falling within that model would be an outlier. But usually this is not that easy. Because once you have just the normal, you don't have knowledge of the abnormal. If you have just the normal, you don't have knowledge of the abnormal. So your classification accuracy or your detection accuracy would suffer significantly. So then here again, there are some techniques, and most of them are classification based, very closer to supervised than to unsupervised. So one technique that has been proposed is what's known as single class classification. So इसमें single class SVM available भी है, the other techniques भी available हैं, support vector machine, SVM is support vector machine. So I'm just giving you these names so that if you come across these problems, you can search up the appropriate ideas. We will go into the details. Okay. Then classification techniques are also sometimes characterized or categorized based on, you can say, the underlying methods for those techniques. So in this case, we have what is known as statistical approaches. Then we have proximity-based approaches. So proximity-based approaches, of course, are those that are similar to clustering. And then we have what is known as, you can say, you can also add clustering-based techniques, although proximity is also close related to clustering, but sometimes ये एक separate category भी दी जाती है. And then finally, basically, neural network are also now becoming popular. ठीक है? So statistical techniques usually are things like you fit some parametric model to data, and then you check whether all objects are significantly deviant from that parametric model. So we won't go into these details because ये method generally practically use नहीं होते, data mining के लिए नहीं होते. But just to give an idea, let's say आपका कोई भी data set है, उसके ऊपर एक normal distribution fit कर दिया आपने. So आप statistics में ये पढ़ते हैं normal distribution. 1D के लिए तो very simple है, bell curve आपके पास आ जाएगी. ठीक है, but for multi-dimensional you will have a multivariate normal distribution. ठीक है. Then when you are given any new object X, you basically then compute its deviation from the distribution. So for 1D, standard deviation could be 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviation, 3 standard deviation, and then you simply threshold that standard deviation. So if standard deviation of X is greater than some, let's say, threshold, let's say A, then X is an outlier. So this is a general idea for statistical approaches. There are some more sophisticated techniques in this as well, but in practice, as I said, they are not used in data mining. So let's move on to the next one, which has a couple of techniques that we want to discuss. Okay, any questions so far? So now let's go on to proximity-based approaches. So as the name suggests, proximity is basically either similarity or dissimilarity. So these approaches rely upon a function that can quantify the similarity of objects. And based on some criterion, you can then decide whether a particular object is significantly different from other objects in the data set. ठीक है? So इसमें जो दो टेक्निक्स जो हम अभी देखेंगे आज, one is called distance based outliers, which is a very simple technique, and the other is called local outlier factor, which is also called LOF. ठीक है? So let's start with distance based outlier. So as I said, proximity is required, some distance measure is required. So distance based outliers basically requires two parameters. So one is called R, which is radius, radius, it's a measure of neighborhood distance around each point. And the other is pi, which is the percentage of objects lying outside the neighborhood. Neighborhood, of course, is defined by R. So if the number of points that lie outside the R radius of a point is greater than pi, then we say that that object is a distance-based outlier. So obviously, as you can see, this technique is heavily dependent on these two parameters. By changing these two parameters, your outlier definition as well as detection would change drastically. Okay? So dB has a parameter R and pi. Okay? So an object A is dB R pi if more than pi by the way is a percentage, objects lie beyond its R radius neighborhood. Okay? So if I want to quickly draw this, so if you talk about any particular object A, उसका कोई radius होगा, ठीक है? And then of course there will be points elsewhere as well. So let's say if pi is equal to 50%, और R मैंने figure से draw कर दिया. So if more than 50% of the data lie outside this circle that I've drawn. So in other words, if the number of objects in the neighborhood of A is less than 50, then it means that this object A is an outlier according to this definition. Of course, it depends on the parameter pi and R. So what are we saying? So हर एक object लेंगे, we will take an object A, इसका neighborhood देखा, let's say कोई और object है B, उसका neighborhood देखा, and for all other objects in the data set, and if we find an object, let's say B, such that this condition is satisfied, then we say that B is an outlier. So obviously, अब ये B है आपके पास, R थोड़ा कर देंगे तो रेडियस के अंदर कम ऑब्जेक्ट्स आएंगे, इट इज मोर लाइकली गोइंग टू बिकम एन आउटलायर. R बड़ा कर देंगे तो ज्यादा ऑब्जेक्ट्स उसके अंदर आ जाएंगे, इट इज लेस लाइकली गोइंग टू बिकम एन आउटलायर. सिमिलरली पाई आप बड़ा कर देते हैं तो इसका मतलब है कि मतलब ऑब्जेक्ट इज मोर लाइकली गोइंग टू बिकम एन आउटलायर. लेट्स से ये मेरे पास एक ऑब्जेक्ट का सर्कल है, तो लेट्स से 90% मेरे पास बाहर ऑब्जेक्ट्स आ रहे हैं और लेस देन 10% इसमें आ रहे हैं, देन इट शुड बी एन आउटलायर. बट लेट्स से मैं 90 से इसको 50 कर देता हूँ, ठीक है? सो इट वुड this point would still be an outlier. Of course, जितना ज़्यादा बढ़ाएंगे, there is less chance of it being an outlier. ठीक है? So as pi increases, an object becomes less likely an outlier. As R increases, object becomes less likely as an outlier. So दो parameters हैं, you have to play with it, and it's not very easy in general to play with these two parameters in practice. ठीक है. So obviously this is a simple technique, but heavily on parameters. And you will have to, and these, that's one thing. And secondly, these parameters are global. What does this mean? Meaning that you will have one set of these parameters set for a particular data set. But usually a data set may have varying densities. कुछ इलाकों में डेंसिटी ज़्यादा होगी, कुछ इलाकों में डेंसिटी कम होगी. So उस केस में fixing one set of parameters for the entire data set might give you misleading results. Either it will miss all outliers or it will put all the objects or large number of objects as outlier. ठीक है? So adaptability इसमें कम है. And this is the same issue that we saw in DB scan. DB scan में भी आपने epsilon होता था, minimum points होते थे. तो जिस तरह आपने वो सेट कर दिया तो उसी तरह ही वो clusters ढूंढेगा. और the same idea or same problem arises here as well. Of course, computationally, in the worst case, इसमें भी n squared complexity लगेगी, because for each point you have to find its neighborhood, which in general will require you to search for all other points, unless you have some other efficient data structure to handle that. ठीक है? So this was the density-based, distance-based outlier. So now let's talk about the local outlier factor. ठीक है? So this is also proximity-based, but it considers local is considered while making a decision. And as such, it can adapt to varying density in a particular data set without too much tweaking of its parameters. So in that sense, this technique is more, you can say, robust as compared to the distance-based outlier. So the idea in this is an object is an outlier if the density of objects around that object. So let me see. So if I want to put it in words, so A is an outlier if the density around objects in its neighborhood is greater than that of its the objects, its neighborhood. मतलब ये है कि हमने नेबरहुड देखना है. नेबरहुड में लेट्स से बहुत ज्यादा डेंस ऑब्जेक्ट्स हैं तो ये वाला ऑब्जेक्ट बिकम्स एन आउटलायर. बट लेट्स से नेबरहुड में बहुत स्पार्स हैं तो ये मे बी दिस मे नॉट बिकम ए outlier. So it kind of comparative analysis of each object's density and the density around the neighbors of this particular object. So इसको थोड़ा सा visualize करें. So for example, let's say मेरे पास एक dense cloud है. ये dense cloud है. एक पॉइंट बिल्कुल इसके करीब है. ये let's say object A है. So this object A is not in that dense cloud. ठीक है? But it's, as you can see, it's fairly close. But still, the density around A is much less than the density around points that are close to A or in the neighborhood of A. ठीक है ना? So in that sense, this is an outlier. But let's say मेरे पास एक और कोई cloud है. ये बहुत बड़ा cloud है, sparse है. और इसमें एक और point है I don't know if this was shown. So let's say you have another ये sparse cloud है, ठीक है. अब ये ऑब्जेक्ट एक दूर है, एब्सोल्यूट वाइज ये दूर है, बट सिंस उसके नेबर्स भी स्पार्स हैं, वो दूर दूर हैं, तो दिस ए मे नॉट बी एन आउटलायर. इट मे बी जस्ट a bigger region in which A is also included. ठीक है. So in other words, हर एक ऑब्जेक्ट की जो अपनी नेबरहुड की डेंसिटी है, we compare it with the density of other objects in the neighborhood of that object. So relative density हम देख रहे हैं, and based on that we determine whether a particular object is an outlier or not. So any questions here?
सर इसमें लोकल से मुराद क्या है, लाइक ये नहीं समझ आए.
लोकल यही है कि हर एक पॉइंट के जो नेबरहुड की जो कंडीशन है उसी को देख रहे हैं, पूरा ग्लोबल डेटा सेट नहीं देख रहे. जैसे इफ यू थिंक ऑफ द डिस्टेंस बेस्ड आउटलायर, उसमें आर तो आप कह लें एक पैरामीटर लोकल है, बट जो पाई जो पैरामीटर वो ग्लोबल है. हमने सारे डेटा सेट को देखना है कितना परसेंटेज ऑब्जेक्ट उस नेबरहुड से बाहर हैं. Here we are only considering a local region, और उस लोकल रीजन की डेंसिटी के बेसिस पे हम डिटरमिन कर रहे हैं कि एक ऑब्जेक्ट आउटलायर है कि नहीं है.
ठीक है, थैंक यू.
Any other question? So now let's go over the formulas. There are 2-3 formulas for this technique. So of course, this technique is based on the idea of the k nearest neighbor. And if you recall, when we talked about the k nearest neighbor for graph-based clustering, we said that the k nearest neighbor approach would give you connectivity in the graph that adjusts to the density of the data set. So if a particular region in the data set is sparse, then obviously those k nearest neighbors would be far away. If a particular region in data set is dense, those k points would be closer together. So it adjusts to the density, and that is because it takes parameter k. ठीक है? So this is the input parameter. Then we have some, let's talk about an object A. Okay. So then we have some formulas, k distance of A. So what is the k distance? So k distance is actually so distance from A to the kth nearest neighbor of A. Okay. So k distance is actually a distance. Okay. And this distance defines, you can say, the radius around the object A. So for example, let's say ये मेरे पास एक ऑब्जेक्ट है, let's say 3 मैं लेता हूँ, and 3 में अब मैं ये वाला ऑब्जेक्ट इंक्लूड नहीं कर रहा. ठीक है. So obviously ये टर्मिनोलॉजी कई दफ़ा इंक्लूड करते हैं, नहीं करते. So here I'm not including it. So let's say मेरे पास 1 2 3 पॉइंट्स है. Of course ये डायग्राम जो है ना मेरे पास सही नहीं होगी. Let me draw the circle first. So let's say इसमें कुछ पॉइंट्स 3 आगे हैं, of course एक सेंटर में कोई पॉइंट है. फिर ये probably सही नहीं हुई होगी.
सर दिख नहीं रहा.
नहीं लिख रहा.
नहीं सर.
एक सेकंड, लिख रहा है। तो कुछ लिख रहा है, अभी भी नहीं लिख रहा।
जी जी सर, अब लिख रहा हूँ।
अच्छा ठीक है। अच्छा तो so the k distance is actually, ये ऑब्जेक्ट a है, दिस इज द k distance जो रेडियस उसका बनता है, जो मैंने लाइन बनाई है, दिस इज द k distance। एंड ऑफ कोर्स ये k distance कौन सा है कि ये द डिस्टेंस टू द फर्देस्ट पॉइंट, फर्देस्ट पॉइंट जो सर्कल के बॉर्डर के ऊपर कोई पॉइंट होगा, विच इज द kth फर्देस्ट अवे। लेट्स से एक आपका ये पॉइंट है, उसके बाद एक ऑब्जेक्ट इधर था, एक ऑब्जेक्ट उससे दूर था, एक इधर था, ये जो सबसे दूर होगा ये रेडियस डिफाइन करेगा, ठीक है। सो ये k डिस्टेंस डिफाइन करेगा, जो सबसे दूर होगा वो डिफाइन करेगा। सो इफ आई वांट टू ड्रॉ इट अगेन, लेट्स से ये मेरा a है, लेट्स से एक दूर इधर है, एक इधर है, इधर है, ये तीसरा था, ये रेडियस बन गया, ठीक है। So the k distance is the distance to the kth nearest neighbor of this object A, ठीक है। अब इस नेबरहुड में मे बी 3 से ज्यादा ऑब्जेक्ट्स आ जाएं या 4 से ज्यादा ऑब्जेक्ट्स हो जाएं, ठीक है, बिकॉज लेट्स से जो kth ऑब्जेक्ट है वो उसी डिस्टेंस पे 2-3 ऑब्जेक्ट और भी आ रहे हैं। सो उसके लिए वी देन डिफाइन द सेट ऑफ ऑब्जेक्ट्स इन द नेबरहुड। So we define nk A as the set of objects in यार स्पेलिंग आज काफी खराब चल रहे हैं, ऑफ ए, ठीक है। सो may in general be greater than or equal to k, ठीक है। So number of elements in the neighborhood of A may be greater than k because there may be some objects, there may be more objects at the same distance from k, from A, ठीक है। So far we have defined two things, a k distance which is kind of a neighborhood radius defined by the k nearest neighbor, the kth nearest neighbor, and then of course जो neighborhood बन गया है उसका set हमने n से define किया, this is a set, n is a set, of course n को जब मैंने बार से लिखा, this is the number of elements in that set, ठीक है। So उसके बाद then it defines another distance which is called the reachability distance of an object to the object A, and this is actually done for stability of the algorithm. So let's say reachability distance A of B from A, ठीक है। A तो हम consider कर रहे थे ना, so reachability distance of B from A, so this is basically max of K distance of B and the actual distance between A and B. So हम ऑब्जेक्ट A को कंसिडर कर रहे हैं, राइट। अब हमने देखना चाह रहे हैं कोई और ऑब्जेक्ट B का रीचेबिलिटी डिस्टेंस क्या है। सो वी डिफाइन इट इन दिस वे, it is the actual distance which is D, A and B if A lies outside the neighborhood of B. If A lies within the neighborhood of B, then it is the K distance of B, because वो फिर छोटा होगा, sorry वो फिर बड़ा होगा। So do you follow this? सो लेट्स से ये मेरे पास ए है और ये इसका नेबरहुड है, या इसका नेबरहुड मैं रहने देता हूँ। सो लेट्स से ये मेरे पास लेट्स से मैं बी बनाता हूँ, दिस इज बी, बी का नेबरहुड है, बी के नेबरहुड के अंदर अंदर ही ए है, then the reachability distance of A from B would be K distance of B, which is the radius of the neighborhood of B. But let's say if मेरे पास ये B है और A इधर है, then now the K reachability distance is actually D, A and B, because A is now outside the neighborhood of B. So in other words, you can think of K as long as A remains inside the neighborhood of B, its distance is equal to K distance of B. जैसे ही उसके neighborhood से निकलता है तो then it becomes an increasing distance, which is the actual distance between A and B. ठीक है? So this was reachability distance. अब उसके बाद एक और टर्म वो डिफाइन करते हैं which is called local reachability density or LRD for the object A. ठीक है? So let me write the formula first and then we can look at it. So this is basically 1 divided by, बाकी सब कुछ नीचे है, इनवर्स कर लें नीचे वाली चीज का, ठीक है? तो नीचे मेरे पास क्या है, आई हैव ए समेशन ओवर over all objects B in the set N A, ठीक है? And then I have reachability distance of A, B, ठीक है? Divided by the number of objects in the neighborhood of A. तो एक तो ऊपर 1 ओवर किया था, वो आप समझ लें कि वो अभी भूल जाएं। जो नीचे वाली टर्म को देखते हैं पहले हम, क्या है नीचे वाली टर्म में, सम है ओवर बी है। बी क्या है, नेबरहुड में ए के नेबरहुड के ऑब्जेक्ट्स, ठीक है? ए का नेबरहुड ऑफ कोर्स उसके रीचेबिलिटी डिस्टेंस के रेडियस है, ठीक है? उसके नेबरहुड में सारे हमने ऑब्जेक्ट्स देखे और उस ऑब्जेक्ट्स के अपने पर हमने रीचेबिलिटी डिस्टेंस देखी, ठीक है? सो नाउ वी आर लुकिंग एट द रीचेबिलिटी डिस्टेंस ऑफ सो जितने भी ऑब्जेक्ट्स उसके नेबरहुड में हैं, वी आर नॉट लुकिंग एट द रीचेबिलिटी डिस्टेंस ऑफ ए टू बी, ठीक है? तो बी का एक नेबरहुड बनेगा, ठीक है? बी का नेबरहुड बनेगा, इफ बी के नेबरहुड में से बाहर है ए, ऑब्वियसली रीचेबिलिटी डिस्टेंस ज्यादा होगा। बी के नेबरहुड के अंदर ही ए है, रीचेबिलिटी डिस्टेंस के डिस्टेंस होगा बी का, एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स नॉर्मलाइज बाय द नंबर ऑफ ऑब्जेक्ट्स। सो इससे क्या पता चल रहा है, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल लेट्स से कि बी के नेबरहुड छोटा बन रहा है, लेट्स से, इसका मतलब ये है कि ए स्पार्स है, बी ज्यादा डेंस है, और बी उसके नेबरहुड में ऑफ कोर्स ये के नियरेस्ट नेबरहुड था, ये ज्यादा दूर जा रहे थे। So we are kind of quantifying that, and then of course density of other, फिर उसको inverse ले लिया, so local reachability density of A. So simple यहाँ logic चल रही है। So A था हमारे पास उसके नेबरहुड में हमने पॉइंट्स देखे, ठीक है, उसमें बी पॉइंट्स हैं, बेशुमार पॉइंट्स होंगे, हर एक बी के अपना एक नेबरहुड देखा हमने, मे बी वो डेंस था, अपने नेबरहुड इधर और पॉइंट्स थे इसके डेंस। इफ वो छोटा होगा तो इसका मतलब है कि ये जो नीचे डिनोमिनेटर में वैल्यू है ये बड़ी हो जाएगी, और इसका ऑफ कोर्स इनवर्स करेंगे तो छोटी हो जाएगी, ठीक है। सो हमको बेसिकली क्या चाहिए, हमको ये चाहिए कि ए शुड बी स्पार्सर देन बी, ठीक है ना, तो फिर ए वुड बी एन आउटलायर। बट ऑफ कोर्स हम सिर्फ इस पे डिसाइड नहीं करते, वी नाउ लुक एट, वी डिफाइन अनदर factor which is a final factor which is called LOF of A, which is of course the weighted average of local reachability density of all the points. So this is then defined as, again we have a summation over B in N of A, ठीक है, और इससे पहले नॉर्मलाइजेशन भी है, सो वी हैव एक्चुअली 1 divided by n A points. ठीक है, नॉर्मलाइजेशन है, there will be n terms in it because वो सम में b ऑब्जेक्ट्स थे ना उसके अंदर। सो अब यहाँ हमारे पास क्या है, वी हैव LRD ऑफ B ऊपर डिवाइडेड बाय LRD ऑफ A, local reachability density of B divided by local reachability density of A, इसका ratio, and of course normalized by the number of objects. So this final value, which is a normalized value, is LOF, local outlier factor. And let me mention the LOF basically would range between between 0 and actually a large value. Yeah, large, I think upper limit का मुझे नहीं पता, but इसमें जो key value है, एक value 1 है. If LOF is 1, it means that the density of the neighboring points, local reachability density of the neighboring points, which is B, is the same as the density of the point A. So it means that there is no change in density. So A is not an outlier, sorry. Outlier. A and its neighbors have same density. So if LOF is greater than 1, then A is likely an outlier, which means that the neighborhood of A are much denser than A itself. So A lies in a region which is less dense, and neighbors of A, which is the B, are in a denser region. So that would be make it an outlier. And then if this is less than 1, then this is basically what is known as an inlier, meaning that it's not an outlier at all. Which means that A is denser, its neighborhood is less dense. Actually, ulta hona chahiye. Probably B's, some of those B's are outliers. So isme humne phir, once we have computed this for all, we simply write the LOFs, rank them, and then maybe use a threshold to determine the outliers. So maybe LOF greater than some threshold, let's say, no thresholds पे हमेशा मुझे issue होता है, theta कर लें. So then, so all those objects that have LOF greater than theta would be considered outliers. मेरा बंद हो गया नोट्स, उसको क्या हुआ? हाँ, ओके। तो बाय द वे ये विकिपीडिया का पेज है, तो इसमें सारी डिटेल LOF की भी दी हुई है, बुक में भी दी हुई है, यू कैन लुक एट द बुक एज वेल, इसमें भी दी हुई है, तो यू कैन लुक इनटू दिस एज वेल। वन नोट, यहाँ कोई एरर्स आ रहे हैं। ओके okay, we're also running out of time. So, okay, any questions on LOF? I think that was pretty much about the questions for LOF. If you want me to repeat something, वो मैं quickly कर सकता हूँ. So outlier LOF is actually a more robust outlier detection algorithm. It is used fairly commonly in practice. Although, as we will see in the next lecture probably, कि जो auto encoder based outlier detection techniques हैं वो आजकल ज़्यादा popular हो गई हैं industry में, which is of course neural network based. But before then, I think LOF was commonly used. But nowadays, I think autoencoder based techniques are also commonly used. Okay, so what are some of the characteristics of this approach? Obviously, it can adjust to of data because of the K nearest neighbor concept, and it is not too heavily dependent on parameters. ठीक है? And what else? So it gives you a ranking, which you can then use threshold to find the outliers. Okay, so these are some of the positives of this algorithm. The negative, I think, it's the same as the other. Computationally, it is the same complexity as distance-based outlier. कोई इसमें बेहतरी नहीं है या worse नहीं है. It's the same complexity. Any questions? Someone asked a question, मुझे समझ नहीं आई वैसे.
सर वो क्विज का पूछ रहे थे स्टूडेंट्स कि कब होगा.
क्विज पूछ रहे थे, QZ. अच्छा, क्विज. अच्छा, सही हो गया.
सर वैसे स्केड्यूल में है हमारे क्विज आज.
हाँ जी है, 6:05. I think I'm pretty much done, so I'm just waiting for any questions. Next class में मैं auto encoder based इसको discuss करूँगा. So ठीक है, but I think get ready for the quiz. The quiz is of course 11 minutes long. I think there are 4 questions again this time. The last question is 4 points. The first three are 2 points each, and so they will be covering the content that we covered in the last two lectures. So this is our 7th quiz. We will inshallah have a quiz again next week and the following week so that we can have 9. And after we have 9, we'll be dropping 2 of your quizzes. So I guess there are no questions. हम jaldi फारग हो गए.